Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. We're looking at 1 John chapter 4, verse 16. Verse 16. So if you have your iPhone Bible, you have your hardcover Bible, whatever you have, or just your ears, listen to this great verse. Verse 16. So we have come to know and to believe the love that God has for us. God is love, and whoever abides in God and God abides in him. And whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. Two things that we realize for the believer who begins to understand that God is love. We have to know that God is love is not just a profound biblical statement. It's the basis for a believer's relationship with God and also your relationship with your fellow human beings. Because God is love, it says we can love. His love is not just past history on a cross 2,000 years ago, or the creation in which he made man. His love is present tense, always eternal love. God loves us. And because we know that God loves us, we can love one another, and also we can love God. Did you notice it says in verse 16, so we have come to know. Two things that happens here. The better and closer we get in understanding the love of God, we grow. We grow in our knowledge. We know. And we have come to know. We grow in our knowledge. You know, one of the great truths of the Bible is that we must and desire to know God. Paul said that I might know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. To know God, not just to have an intellectual assent in our minds that there is a God, but to be intimately acquainted with the character and the attributes and the personality and God himself. And we have come to know God. Have you come to know God? Have you come to know his love? And then secondly, not only will you grow in knowledge, you will grow in your faith. And we have come to know God and believe. We believe. Our belief in God will grow. We'll grow in the grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ. My friend, the better we know God's love, the easier it is to live as a Christian. Because Bible knowledge itself does not take the place of the personal experience of God's love. Matter of fact, it can be a dangerous substitute if we're not careful. Next thing we realize that when we really love God, we'll love the people that he loves. We'll love the lost. You'll know that you love God because you'll look around you and you'll see people that are broken and hurting and perishing, and you know that God loves them and you'll want to love them too. Matter of fact, one of the reasons, have you ever thought about this, that God permits the world to hate and mistreat and persecute the believer? It gives the believer ample opportunity to love them back with God's love. That's why Jesus said, blessed are you when you're persecuted for my name's sake. Then you can know that you have God's love because you'll love those who hate you, malign you, persecute you, yes, and even put you to death. The stories are numerous. You know, I'll never forget the story of the Chinese farmer. Watchman Nee tells this story, and he became a believer, a follower of Christ, and he would every day pump up water to his fields for his rice paddies for his rice, and it was hard work, and he'd pump that water up. But at night, his neighbor down below him would break the dikes and let the water down to his fields, and he'd get up and his water would be gone the next day, and his neighbor had stolen his water, and so he was all irritated, and he prayed to love his neighbor, and he tried to be nice to his neighbor, but his neighbor was stealing his water, and the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. But one day God spoke to him, and you know what he did? Instead of pumping up water just for his rice fields, he pumped up water for his neighbor's rice fields. And as he began to do that day after day for a short period of time, the neighbor came to him and said, would you tell me how to become a Christian? Why? Because he overcame the evil of his neighbor with the love of God by showing that love, and the neighbor wanted what he had. My friend, today, I encourage you today, know the love of God, grow in the faith of the love of God, and you will be so blessed as you share God's great love with the world around you. God bless, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.